I was settling into my seat, popcorn in hand, ready for some desert car chase action. But then, about 3/4 of the way through the movie, a car chase scene makes me wonder if Vin Diesel in the Fast and the Furious saga is just a kid playing with a toy car. Now, I know what you're thinking. Big deal, it's just a car badge. But this is some next-level filmmaking genius. This prequel, exclusively in theaters, and trust me, that's the only way to experience it, preferably in IMAX. Why? I ask myself, to myself, and I answer, because you need to see Anya Taylor-Joy, stepping in for Charlize Theron, showing us the younger Furiosa in all her glory. This film focuses on the fierce imperator, Furiosa. Yeah, that Furiosa, from Mad Max Fury Road. This movie dives deeper into her backstory. Furiosa as a kid got snatched away from her people, watching her mom get killed. She goes on this wild quest for vengeance against some nasty warlord named Dementus. It's like Furiosa goes full-on Liam Neeson in Taken, but in a post-apocalyptic desert with fewer cell phones and more explosions. I was seriously pumped for Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Technically, it's a prequel, but you know what I mean. Seeing Mad Max Fury Road for the first time was one of those movie experiences that just sticks with you. So yeah, I had pretty high, maybe unrealistic and unfair expectations for Furiosa. And guess what? It didn't just meet my expectations, it blew them out of the water. What really makes Furiosa stand out is its ability to carve its own path. It doesn't rely on the success of the previous films, but instead offers a fresh perspective on the Mad Max universe. The storytelling, the character development, and the world building are top-notch, chef's kiss, adding new layers to the Mad Max lore. I feel like the director, George Miller, who is pushing 80 at this point, is a wizard in the film world, always pulling out some magical storytelling tricks from his hat. The way he crafts a story is like watching an artist paint, except there's a lot more explosions and people with crazy haircuts. In Furiosa, Miller doesn't just take you on a ride, he straps you into a rocket and blasts you through a universe that is as thrilling as it is thought-provoking. Now, Miller isn't just playing with old-school tools, he's that director who always has new filmmaking techniques. He picked up some neat tricks from Bong Joon-ho, the director of Snowpiercer and Parasite, and used them to make Furiosa even more mind-blowing. George Miller's brilliant balance in Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, is all about his world storytelling, his knack for details, his love for new filmmaking toys, and his eye for casting. He's expanded the Mad Max universe in ways we didn't even know we needed, and made Furiosa an even more legendary character. But let's compare Mad Max Fury Road and Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Both of these are George Miller specials, set in a post-apocalyptic world. They might share the same universe, but trust me, they're like two very different flavors of ice cream. Fury Road is all about Max Rokitansky. No idea he even had a last name. It's horrible. Played by Tom Hardy. He's just trying to get by in this crazy world when he bumps into Imperator Furiosa, played by the ever-awesome Charlize Theron. Furiosa is on a mission to free the enslaved wives of the baddie and Morton Joe. The whole movie is like one giant adrenaline-fueled car chase with explosions, crazy stunts, and a surprising amount of heart. It's all about survival, freedom, and redemption, wrapped up in a dusty, high-octane package. Then there's Furiosa, which is like the prequel to Fury Road. Instead of following Max, it zooms in on Furiosa's backstory. Anya Taylor-Joy takes on the role of young Furiosa. This one digs deeper into her character, showing us all the gritty detail and her rise to power. It's got character development, world building, and more of that George Miller magic. Furiosa is less about the fast-paced madness and more about a dark, cerebral revenge tale. While Fury Road is like a non-stop roller coaster, Furiosa gives you a lot more to chew on. It's like having a deep conversation with a friend after the roller coaster ride, trying to make sense of everything. Miller takes his time here, painting a vivid picture of this world and its characters, letting the horror linger instead of flashing by in a chase scene. It's patient, it's wordy, and it's brilliant. If Fury Road is the explosive exhale, then Furiosa is the intense inhale. And honestly, sometimes the inhale is even more gripping. Miller knew he couldn't top the action of Fury Road, so he went a different route, giving us a deeper, more thoughtful experience. But now, let's talk about Anya Taylor, who doesn't have many lines, but kills it. I mean, wow. I was watching the movie waiting for Anya to show up and the suspense was killing me because she's not even on the screen for the first hour. It's like, where is she? Did I miss her? Is this the right movie? But then she shows up and it's like the movie just hit another gear. Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa is like a tornado of talent. Even with barely any lines, she just owns the role. You can feel every bit of emotion she's putting out there. It's like she looked at the script and said, lines? Who the hell needs lines when you just got this much fierce energy? Now, Chris Hemsworth in this flick? Man, it blew my mind. So Hemsworth is playing this baddie named Dementus. I know, it sounds like the name that you give a villain in a comic book, right? But stay with me here. This guy is like the evil twin of Max. Both of them lost their families, but where Max tries to keep a grip on his sanity, Dementus goes full-on bananas. We're talking about a psychopathic barbarian here, and Hemsworth makes you kinda get why people would just follow this nutjob. I gotta hand it to Hemsworth. This might be just his best performance ever. We're so used to seeing him as Thor, the charming, muscle-bound hero, but Dementus? He's something else. Hemsworth dives deep into the dark side, and let me tell you, it's a sight to behold. Now, there's a scene, this sequence, known as the Stairway to Nowhere, is a whopping 15 minutes of unadulterated chaos, and it took 78 days to film. Now, you know it's serious business when you need 200 stunt people to pull it off. In the scene, Furiosa crawls out of the pit and does what any sensible person would do. She alerts the big bad, Immortan Joe, about Dementus' dastardly plans. Naturally, this leads to an all-out brawl at the Citadel. Dementus attacks the Citadel, but his forces get wiped out. This marks a huge turning point in the story and sets the stage for Furiosa's ultimate revenge. And let me tell you, the grand finale of this sequence is nothing short of sensory overload. There's fire, there's metal, there's chainmail, and yes, there are crushed bones and blood-soaked revenge. Now I know what you're thinking, this sounds a lot like Fury Road, but let me stop you there. Furiosa is its own beast. Sure, it shares the same high-octane energy, but this isn't a chase movie. It's about Furiosa's inevitable need for revenge. And all the credit goes to the visual storyteller George Miller. I mean, seriously, the guy's got some serious skills. Miller's all about showing, not telling. Now, even though John Seal didn't hop on board this time, the cinematographer still knocks your socks off. It's like someone threw a bucket of colors and CGI effects at the screen and somehow made it look amazing. I don't know how they do it, but it's like magic. The setup is so good that we feel like we're thrown into the wild desert where everyone's fighting over the last bits of good stuff like water, food, and gasoline. The soundtrack by Tom Holkenborg is like a symphony of chaos. Tracks like Dementus is Gaining and The Darkest Gods really amp up the action. And when you're hearing it in Dolby Atmos, Dolby True HD 7.1, it's like you're right there in the middle of the madness. And speaking of madness, let's chat about the mechanics. We've got Furiosa, our badass mechanic building the epic war rig, a souped-up tractor trailer that's basically a fortress on wheels. But while Furiosa has its moments of jaw-dropping awesomeness, it's got a few quirks too. Like sometimes the CGI is so in your face that it's like watching a kid's cartoon. Visually, it's a bit of a step down from the eye-popping spectacle of Fury Road. In Furiosa, there's more chaotic CGI scenes. The Citadel looks less like a post-apocalyptic fortress and more like a digital playground. Some people felt like they were watching a video game cutscene instead of a blockbuster. But besides all of these ups and downs, the critics over at Rotten Tomatoes gave it a thumbs up with an 89% on the old tomato meter. Sure, it might not be topping the charts like Fury Road, but second place ain't too shabby. According to those people at Rotten Tomatoes, the consensus is that Furiosa packs a punch, adding some emotional oomph to the Mad Max universe. They say it's like George Miller took Fury Road, gave it a bit of a polish, and sent it roaring down the highway again. Furiosa seems to be hitting all the right notes. Critics and audiences are cheering it on, giving it a big stamp of approval. Looks like it's carved out its own little niche in the Mad Max universe, ready to rev its engines and race towards cinematic glory.